Welcome to FilmSauce. I'm FilmSauce, and in this saucy video we are looking at Back to the Future, released in 1985. Directed by Bob and written by Bob, this shows a story of a teenage boy going back in time to when his parents were his age, but he needs to get them back together or he disappears out of time. Throughout the movie I will or negate source points, and at the end of the film I will add up the source points and we'll see how saucy this movie really is. Without further ado, let's watch this time-traveling ride. The movie starts off with ticking clocks over a silent title card, and then we are thrusted into the room with said ticking clocks, a news reporter who was reporting of a plutonium theft. I'm sure that has nothing to do with the story. Now our hero enters the film. This hero is Marty McFly, who immediately blows up the place. Now Doc Brown, who owns the place, calls Marty to meet him at the Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 a.m. But wait, Marty's late for school. Everyone loves the pair of love scene, right? Plus one source point. Now at school, Marty meets with his girlfriend Jennifer, who tries to sneak Marty around, Mr. Strickland, but fails. Now Marty's called a slacker, like how Marty's father was a slacker, and he tells Marty how no McFly has amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley. But
yeah, well, history is going to change.
Foreshadowing. Plus one source point. Now McFly tries his band out for the dance auditions and fails for being too loud. Garbage reason. But hey, Jennifer liked it. Marty's angered over this and starts believing he should leave his dreams behind, and he's scared of rejection like his old man.
30 years ago, lightning struck that clock tower and the clock hasn't run since.
More foreshadowing. Plus one source point. But cock block. Minus one source point. Now back at the Line Estates, Marty sees his father's car destroyed by his old high school bully, Biff, who is barraging over a totally real blind spot to his father, George McFly. Now at his family dinner table we meet the rest of the family, Dave, Linda, and Lorraine, played by the actress of the hit movie Howard the Duck. Anyway, poor little Uncle Joey didn't make it to parole again. I'm broken. Linda tells Marty that Jennifer called, which made Lorraine yap about how a girl chasing boys asking for trouble and how she would never chase a boy. She proceeds to tell the story of how she met George and fell in love because Grandpa hit him with the car, and they went together to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, where they both shared a first kiss. But it was also the night of a terrible thunderstorm. Now that night, or in the morning, whatever time politics you like, Marty goes down to the Twin Pines Mall where he meets up with Einstein. Not that Einstein, this Einstein. Now here a truck opens up revealing a DeLorean. Iconic design, plus one source point. Here we meet Doc Brown eager to proceed with this experiment. Einstein enters the car with a clock in precise synchronization with the Doc's. The Doc proceeds to use the DeLorean as a remote control car, speeding the car up to 88 miles per hour. Haha, iconic scene. But Einstein is indeed dead. Never mind. Doc had sent Einstein 1 minute into the future, proven by the difference in the clocks. When explaining how it works, Doc puts in the day he came up with the idea of time travel in 1955. Doc also drops a bomb that to power the guy needs plutonium, or 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. He also kind of stole the plutonium from a group of Libyan nationalists, but I'm sure that won't come back to bite him in the ass. Oh shit. Well, the Doc is dead, and Marty is in a car getting chased around Twin Pine Mall, speeding up to 88 miles per hour, powering up the time machine. Marty in a flash of light travels back in time to 1955, where he crashes into a barn with the owner's family investigating. Once they see Marty, they believe he's an alien, so they attempt to murder him, but he escapes to the Line Estates, which isn't there. But the Estates has some use as he hides the DeLorean behind the sign advertising the construction. McFly walks into town flabbergasted by the 1955. McFly decides to enter a local diner where he sits next to some guy. Now Biff enters ready to bully McFly, but not Marty. The guy next to him is George McFly, his father, Back in 1955, George acts the exact same way as he did in 1985. That goes for Biff too. After bullying George, Biff and the gang bounce as well as George. Marty follows him, catching him in the act of being a peeping Tom on some girl or something. I don't know. But George falls out the tree in front of a car. Marty pushes him aside, getting hit instead, with him waking up later to his mother's voice. But that's not the mother he knows. The lights turn on and he sees the younger version of his mother. Now what 1985 Lorraine said about never chasing boys, that was horseshit. She's the horniest gal in cinema. Anyway, Marty got the name Calvin Marty Klein. Now he's at the Baines dinner table where he terribly hides the fact that he is a time traveller and Lorraine is horny some more, scaring Marty away. Marty now goes to Doc's place where he meets the 1955 Doc, explaining to him that he used his time machine to be here and needs the Doc's help to travel back to the present. Future. This excites Doc as something he made finally works, but now the question is how they get Marty back to 1985 because they can't get plutonium or 1.21 gigawatts. Doc mentions how the only way to power that much is a bolt of lightning, and Marty knows when and where it will strike, on the clock tower. But with Marty bumping into his parents and making Lorraine have a crush on him, this is creating the McFly children to disappear, as shown in Marty's photograph. So they need to fix that. Marty and Doc now go to school, where Marty goes and talks to George, attempting to introduce him to Lorraine, who completely ignores George, worrying over Marty. Marty now comes to the idea to make George take Lorraine to the enchantment under the sea, but Marty spots Biff kind of assaulting her, causing Marty to stand up for her. With Biff unable to properly fight him, he tells Marty,
"So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?"
Good joke. +1 source point. George is refusing to go to the dance with Lorraine, so Marty gets the idea of dressing up as the alien, threatening George to go out with Lorraine or else. The next day at the diner, George makes his first move.
I'm George McFly.
Funny line, +1 source point. Lorraine seems kind of into it, but Biff busts in with Marty tripping him over, starting a scuffle, with Marty throwing the first punch. Marty steals a makeshift skateboard, evading the bullies in the car, a truly simple but epic scene. The chase ends with Marty jumping over the car and the bullies crashing into manure. This is a truly legendary. +2 source points. Marty and Doc are working on the time machine plan where a cable from the clock tower will go across the street. The DeLorean with the connecting hook will hit the cable, sending Marty back to the future. But Lorraine comes in asking for Marty to join her at the enchantment under the sea dance. Marty formulates a plan with George where Marty will take advantage of his mother and George will beat him, saving the day and getting the girl. That night, Doc has set up the experiment and exclaims how much he is excited to travel through time, creating Marty an awkward position where he shouldn't tell Doc about his future, but he wants to, so Marty writes a letter to Doc for him to only open in 1985. Marty and Lorraine now pull up to the dance with Marty wanting to stay parked for the plan, but his mother gets a bit horny making the first move on Marty. Big mistake. Biff now comes up, grabs Marty, making his goons drag him and dump Marty into a locked car boot, while Biff takes advantage of Lorraine. George, still thinking the plan with Marty is happening, stands up to Biff thinking it's Marty, but once he sees it's Biff, he still stands his ground. Biff puts George in an arm lock, but George finally fully stands up for himself and Lorraine punches Biff. Marty, now out of the boot, saw this happen, but the McFly children are still disappearing. This needs to be cemented by a kiss. So Marty now wants the dance to continue. So now he gets to play the guitar in a great scene with two different songs joined together to make a thrilling scene, which has a huge, amazing sounding climax cemented by the kiss, saving Marty and his siblings. plus 2 source points, but minus 1 source point for the dated hand effect. And now, another pretty iconic scene happens with Johnny Be Good, the famous song written by a white man. But now, Marty has a goodbye to his parents, reminding them not to be so hard on their child who lit fire to the living room rug. Now we are at the clock tower climax, with Marty arriving late. The epic music kicks in, creating tension, led up by Doc finding Marty's note about the future, ripping it to pieces, followed up by a tree branch cutting the cable off. Doc climbs up the clock tower, with Marty throwing the cable up for him to attach, but Marty has to tell Doc about the future. Doc, unable to hear Marty, yells at him to go, with Marty having less than 4 minutes to get the car ready. Marty goes to the end of the street, deciding to put the time destination a bit more backwards, so he can attempt to save the Doc's life. The DeLorean cuts out now, and Doc is still slowly trying to attach the cables, almost plummeting in the meantime. Doc does end up connecting the cables at the top of the clock tower, but near the fallen branch the cables disconnect. Marty finally starts up the car and speeds down the street, closing in at 88 miles per hour. Doc Brown, with little time left, ziplines down to the ground at the exact second lightning strikes the clock tower. Doc connects the cable and Marty hits the cable at 88 miles per hour. Marty, now gone from 1955, causes Doc to dance around the street in victory. This was a great climax. Plus 2 source points. Now in 1985, Marty wants to go save Doc, but the DeLorean once again won't start. So Marty rushes down to the now Lone Pine Mall, where he watches Doc get shot again and himself travel back in time. Marty runs to Doc's body, but saddened, but the Doc's alive, with him showing off a bulletproof vest and a once ripped, now stuck back together note from Marty. Doc transports Marty back home and says goodbye, with Doc traveling to the future. Now in the morning, Marty finds his siblings alive but strange, with Dave having a good job and Linda having a boyfriend. Or two? George and Lorraine walk in looking so much better than they did at the start of the movie, and Biff is now George's pussy. Now, Marty still has the date tomorrow, and he checks out his new car that he wanted at the start of the film, with Jennifer there too. Lights flash now. Doc is there, with telling Marty that they need to go back to the future to save their children, and the trio fly off to the sequel. That was Back to the Future, possibly the most memorable time-traveling movie out there. But let's check how it did in the source points. The film had gathered 12 source points, saucy, but must have had some worn-out mustard, because 2 source points were negated, making Back to the Future have a total of 10 source points. That pretty saucy. Thanks for watching this FilmSauce episode on Back to the Future. And don't worry, because we'll continue the trilogy next video with Back to the Future 2. And help remind yourself of that, consider subscribing and liking this video. It goes a long way. But hey, I need to go back to the future.